Perelman is with me here in the studio, our French politics editor. And Marc, this is not the only gesture like this that Emmanuel Macron has made. There have been similar kinds of commemorations taking place, I should say, in the last year or so.
Yes, I mean, the Algerian War is really something that Emmanuel Macron, who was born way after the end of that war in 1962, really is very interested in, because he believes that those wounds of history need to be healed, not only for the past, but also for the present and the future. So since he arrived, he's made several gestures trying to touch upon all those who were implicated in the war. So a few months ago, back in September, he apologized on the behalf of France to the so-called Harkis. Those are those Algerian Muslims who fought with the French army and were essentially abandoned after the war. Then he apologized for France's role in the killing of a number of pro-independent militants in October 1961 in Paris. And today he is going to address the issue of the so-called pieds-noirs, those Europeans who were born in Algeria and were forced to leave the country after the independence, and especially maybe taking some responsibility for this Rue d'Isly terrible incident in 1962, March 1962. But clearly, this is always a very difficult issue. We saw that in Algeria, some of his gestures were well received. However, there have been some controversy, and there was really virtually a breakdown in diplomatic relationship because the president in Algeria did not like some off-the-cuff remarks by Emmanuel Macron, saying the regime in Algeria is playing with that memory for political purposes. We're trying to heal the wounds. They're trying to maintain them for political reasons. So it's an extremely sensitive issue.
It's a sensitive issue in Algeria, but might it also be a politically risky one here in France?
Yes, it's a sensitive one in France as well, because before he was elected, during the 2017 campaign, Emmanuel Macron went to Algeria and said in an interview that the French colonization was, quote-unquote, a crime against humanity. This created really, really angry reactions here in France, in the so-called pieds-noirs community, but also on the right, on the far right. And we're just weeks away from a presidential election, and so this is indeed a very sensitive issue. Everything he says is being monitored by his enemies, and just in a couple of weeks, we'll have the 60th anniversary of the so-called Evian Accords from March 1962, which ushered in a ceasefire and eventually the independence of Algeria. Emmanuel Macron said he would participate in those commemorations, but this will be 1 month away from round one of the presidential election, so he has to be extremely careful. We know, not only on this issue, but on many other issues, sometimes Emmanuel Macron is not exactly careful. He likes to speak off the cuff, and so we are going to watch his gestures, his words, especially now in this presidential campaign that's entering really the final weeks.
Marc Perelman, thank you very much.